Welcome to the webinar Sexuality, Gender Identity, and Intimacy Workshop for Parents. My name is Yukari Seko. I'm a research associate of Transition Strategy at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital.
Hi everyone, I'm Gabriella Carafa, social worker at Holland Bloorview Kids Rehabilitation Hospital.
Youth with disabilities want and need to talk about sexuality, gender identity, intimacy, and consent. But in pediatric rehabilitation, unfortunately, the topic still remains hugely under-discussed. Clinicians may not sure about how to approach these sensitive areas when they meet clients and families. So, in order to kick the elephant out of the room, we are running a series of workshops for youth and families, inviting them to share their experiences and develop their sexual literacy and advocacy skills. We are offering a total of 4 workshops, 2 for youth and 2 for parents. Our workshops are supported by No Boundaries Fund, a catalyst grant for Holland Bloorview staff to act on innovative ideas that can meet the needs of our clients and families. The youth and parent workshops aim to inform the development of a professional development workshop for our service providers to help improve their competency on this topic. Today's webinar is a recap of our first workshop for parents that we did back in November 2018. The workshop was co-created and co-facilitated by social worker Gabriela Calafa and family leader Joanne Downing. We are so glad that workshop was well attended and received by parents interested in this topic. So let's begin.
So I wanted to start with some of the challenges that parents face when discussing relationships and sexuality with their youth. So not knowing how to approach the subject is quite a common one. Parents' own experience, beliefs, attitude, and knowledge. So in order to know how to approach it, we do need to take an inventory into thinking about how were these topics taught to you? Who brought them up? Where did you get the ideas around relationships and sexuality from? It's really helpful to reflect on these things, and maybe you want to have a different kind of conversation than the conversation that you had growing up. And so you need to be able to reflect on that in order to make a change. A lot of parents will say to me, I'm unsure what my youth already knows about this topic. So you don't want to give them too much information where they feel overwhelmed and you might frighten them, but you don't want to give them basic information when they may be beyond that. So thinking about where could your youth be getting this information from, and what kind of messages do they get, and where do they get those messages from? And of course, we are running this workshop through Holland Bloorview, so unsure how disability plays into that discussion. Wanting to keep children and youth safe, the fear of the unknown. That's another challenge that parents have shared with me. So at the stage that your youth is now, if you can take a second to think about what messages are important to model and communicate about healthy relationships. We all want your teen to have healthy and happy relationships, romantically or otherwise. All relationships are important and can teach your youth how to be treated and how to treat others. If you're looking at that question, the word that I want to jump out is modeling. Modeling is the key word here. What you say is only half as important as what you do. For example, how do you show your youth how you resolve conflict? What's your level of openness with regards to others? How do you self-regulate your emotions? Helping your youth to identify healthy and unhealthy relationships in families and even in the media, and have discussions about them. What makes them a healthy and positive relationship? What aspects make them unhealthy? I've worked with a lot of parents over the years, and parents have a lot of hopes and dreams for their children. And sometimes parents need to reconcile what they want for their youth versus what the youth want for themselves. So for example, I've heard a lot of parents say, I really want them to have a high school relationship or a prom date or spend hours on the phone like I did. But maybe your youth, that's not important to them. That's not what they want. Maybe they want this one best friend in one of their classes that they can hang out with. And that's satisfying their needs for relationships right now. Getting a sense of what your youth understands now with respect to managing their emotions and the emotions of others. So for example, you can ask your youth, how do you know when mom, dad, sister is upset? Visuals can also be used to support teens who have a harder time understanding and identifying emotions. This idea, yes means yes and no means no, but there are nuances to this. So it's important to talk about and pay attention to body language and nonverbal cues. We're going to talk a bit about consent. My big belief is that it's never too early or too late to teach your teen about consent. Teaching consent helps teens learn how to express what they want and don't want. It is a tool that teaches them to express their limits. We teach them that they deserve to be treated in a respectful way. You should be asking your teens, what does consent mean to you? If they don't know, explain it in the way that would make sense to them. Consider discussing it as getting permission to do something. Ask your teen to explain how they know when someone is consenting to something. Explain that only yes means yes, and just because someone doesn't say no, it does not mean that person is giving consent. Model obtaining consent with your child. So for example, when you're assisting them with personal care, with their siblings, with your spouse, and discuss things seen in the media or something that they may have witnessed. A lot of the youth I work with get assistance with personal care. And in the hustle and bustle of the routine, it's hard to slow down and get consent for everything that's happening from your youth. But it's important to teach them that you're telling them what might be coming up, and that you're also asking, like, is it okay if I pull up your pants right now, for example? Is it okay if I help you get out of the shower? Just so that they're more aware of what's going on around them, and that they recognize that you're asking permission to do something with their body. Take a moment to think about other ways to teach consent. What are some ways disability can play a factor when discussing consent? There are some disabilities and developmental levels where it's difficult to recognize nonverbal cues. And there's a lot of conversation about how nonverbal cues are very important when it comes to consent. And so that might be a barrier where you may have to access a behavior therapist or discuss with a social worker or your teen specialist to figure out ways to model this and teach it. I thought we should spend some time discussing red flags that you may see your youth displaying to indicate they may be in an unhealthy relationship. We mentioned earlier that we're not only talking about romantic relationships, we're also talking about friendships. And so you might see these red flags, but it's not in a romantic relationship, that it might come out of a friendship that your teen has developed. So for example, the first point, pressure to commit or move relationship along. That could be a romantic relationship, and that could be a friend at school or a friend in a special program that they're going to. We need to think about these relationships as all being meaningful, and they can all be healthy and unhealthy. So in a friendship, pressure to commit might mean they meet a friend and then all of a sudden that's their best friend and we're told they're not allowed to talk to anyone else or be friends with anyone else. That's an unhealthy friendship. If you notice that a friend or romantic partner is questioning decision making of your teen, controlling their actions. So if you notice that they're always having to say where they are and what they're doing. If you notice any emotional, physical, financially, or sexual abuse or controlling behavior. Teen not wanting to share things with their partner, saying, well, I'm just not going to let them know that I bought this certain thing or that I'm going to this certain event. Changes in mood, appearance, and personality. Noticing that maybe their partner or friend has sudden mood swings. Noticing personal space being compromised in an inappropriate manner. And maybe there's some others that you would think of as a red flag or that you've seen. And, these are important. What I really want you guys to think about is you need to trust your instincts and encourage your teen to trust theirs. You might notice things and you might brush it aside because your teen looks really happy, but there's certain things that are bothering you. And that's important that you at least try to have that conversation. and acting curious and not suspicious, and encouraging communication with you and your teen, asking very open-ended, supportive questions, getting to know how their friends' relationships are going. How did their partner or friend respond when they disagreed? Asking generally how things are going. What do they like to do for fun? Things like that. So you can get to know how they are engaging with their partner. You may have further questions about this entire topic and not know where to get further support. Working with parents all these years, I've really learned that the best advice comes from other parents. You might want to get connected to the Holland Bloorview community and see if you can meet with a parent who maybe has a teen that's a bit older or the same age, so you guys can brainstorm ideas in terms of how to navigate this time. When we went to meet with the Youth Advisory Council, they gave us very specific things that they wanted parents to know and things that were important to them. Some of them are educating yourself by accessing reliable, up-to-date resources, especially about gender identity and sexuality. I would say things have changed, and maybe the information you got growing up is not the same. The terminology is not the same. And youth think it's really important that parents are up to date on this information. Don't make any assumptions and just ask your child appropriate questions rather than making it a taboo topic. So they were saying you can ask questions like, what do you feel like, or what would be best for you? Like we mentioned earlier, parents and caregivers, they need support and validation. So connecting with parent mentors who already went through the same experience can be invaluable. And tell your child and show them that you offer unconditional love and emotional support by being open-minded when you're talking about these things and knowing that they can come to you if they have any questions or concerns. And sometimes it's other people that they want to go to in the family. Maybe they're really close with an aunt of theirs or a cousin, and that's who they feel like they can talk to. And if that person you think is appropriate, then that's okay. It's very hard for any teenager to talk to their parents about this topic, and that should also be respected. It's really important that you're just giving your youth access to information and directing them. We can't have this conversation without recognizing the impact technology is having on how we connect with people. Teens are making far more connections now online than they ever did. We want to encourage connections that are positive and authentic. These connections can come through social media or through gaming, but the same principles of healthy relationships apply. Keeping you safe online is tricky, and there are no parental controls that can ensure your youth is safe 100% of the time. But some things to consider: setting clear expectations and limits regarding any use of technology. Time limits, daily limits, site limits, parental controls, these are all things that you can put in place. Being the password keeper. It's important that if anything were to happen, that you were to have access to your youth's social media accounts. Being a good role model online. A lot of you may be online yourself, and you may have your teen on your Facebook or on your Instagram account, and you may not. But being a good role model online is really important. So setting your own limits. Keep electronics out of the bedroom. So I always recommend any computer be in a more public space. Cell phones be left out of the bedroom generally, because we really want to ensure that youth are being safe, that they're getting the right amount of sleep, that they're not secretly on the computer instead of sleeping all night long. So what are some things you do or could do to help your child develop sexual health knowledge? Of course, engaging your child as early as possible in participating, being involved with, and directing their own personal care in a way that is in line with their abilities. Giving your youth privacy. So if you take a moment to think about a typically developing teen's level of privacy compared to your youth, how does it differ? Where is there room in your routine to add some more private time for them? Using proper terminology when labeling body parts and sexual acts. If you see a behavior that you feel is not appropriate, correct the behavior or comment immediately. As long as correcting it in that moment won't make your youth feel ashamed. You may want to use redirection or distraction. Do not shame your youth if they masturbate and engage in self-touch or watch pornography. Acknowledge that it feels good and teach your youth that it is a private act that should be taking place in a private space. Teach your child that the bedroom is the appropriate private space for this. Buying reputable books for your teens to read or find reputable videos online. You can definitely discuss the potential harmful effects of pornography on self, others, and how to set realistic expectations for themselves and others. We're going to spend some time talking about LGBTQ+. So understanding at first the difference between gender identity and sexual orientation and understanding terminology is very important. So in the LGBTQ+, stands for lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, two-spirit, and queer or questioning. The plus ensures that further identities are included and indicates that nobody is left out. Terminology that a lot of people get confused is the difference between gender and sexual orientation. Gender is believed to be a social construct that is greatly influenced by culture. Socially constructed roles, behaviors, activities, and attributes seen as typical of one gender or another, and these can vary greatly across different societies and groups. Sexual orientation, on the other hand, describes one's romantic feelings or sexual attraction towards others. For some, being aware of their sexual orientation is clear from the beginning. For others, awareness of the sexual orientation may take more time and may change. So where does disability fit? A lot of youth that we've met with have indicated that when they came out to their parents for being gay, for example, their parents have somehow brought in aspects of their disability to explain it away. Or they minimize this area of their youth's life as they feel the youth has other things to think about. Disability is one part of your youth's identity, but not all of it. Persons with disabilities can also be transgendered and gay, for example. It's important to note this was not caused by your youth's disability and should not be ignored because they are disabled. We want to ensure that this aspect of their life is accepted and valued just like all other aspects. Youth want their parents to acknowledge these identity and sexual orientation and talk about it. They want their parents to learn the information if they don't know it already. So then we get to where can you get reliable information? There's some resources on the screen. You can definitely check them out. But if you have further questions about this, consulting with members of your teen's healthcare team and also connecting with other parents might be helpful. We'd like to thank you for watching this webinar and hope that it was helpful. And thanks so much.
Thank you.